The distress signal was never meant to travel so far. It was a desperate cry from the shattered remains of the Celtari expedition, drifting near the edge of an uncharted system. Their fleet had entered the region seeking rare quantum fuel, confident in their advanced shields and centuries of peaceful diplomacy. They did not expect predators. The ambush came without warning. Unknown vessels tore through space like shadows with claws, striking from angles that defied prediction. Within minutes, half the Celtari fleet burned, and the rest scattered in blind panic. Their commanders issued retreat orders that never reached surviving ships. As systems failed and life support dimmed, the final cruiser transmitted a distress call on all known frequencies. It was a standard plea used across the galaxy, requesting rescue or mercy from any listening civilization. The Celtari believed help would come from the Galactic Council or perhaps a nearby trade alliance. They never expected the signal to reach the outer dark. Far beyond mapped space, ancient listening arrays stirred to life. Human deep space monitors detected the fractured transmission, distorted by radiation and fear. The signal carried unfamiliar genetic markers, unknown language structures, and clear signs of violent attack. For humanity, that was enough. Earth's response was not debated in open forums. It was handled by quiet rooms and hardened faces. The word Deathworlder was never spoken aloud because it did not need to be. Humans knew what they were, and they knew what they did when something called for help. Within hours, ships designed for wars humanity prayed never to fight were awakened. Vessels layered in redundant armor, kinetic spines, and weapons banned by every interstellar treaty humanity was not part of. These ships did not shine or intimidate by size. They looked like scars carved into the void. The Celtari cruiser continued to drift, believing no one had heard them. Their remaining crew prepared cultural death rites, convinced extinction was moments away. Then their sensors detected an anomaly. Something massive was approaching at impossible speed. They assumed it was the enemy returning to finish the hunt. They did not yet understand what it meant when Deathworlders answered a call. The first human ship did not emerge with ceremony. There was no announcement, no warning broadcast, no diplomatic signal. Space simply folded inward, and the vessel appeared, already armed, already aware. Its hull bore no insignia, only scars from battles long forgotten. Celtari sensors screamed in confusion. The ship's mass readings exceeded known structural limits. Its power core emitted fluctuations similar to a dying star being forced to obey commands. And yet it moved with terrifying precision. Moments later, 3 more vessels arrived, forming a protective perimeter around the crippled cruiser. Point defense grids activated automatically, intercepting debris and incoming microweapons before the Celtari even realized they were under renewed attack. The predators had returned, drawn by the distress signal like carrion beasts. They found something else waiting. Human weapons spoke first. Not with energy beams, but with kinetic storms. Rounds accelerated to fractions of light speed tore through enemy hulls, ignoring shields designed to stop plasma and radiation. Each impact rewrote physics locally, reducing advanced warships to expanding clouds of molten fragments. The Celtari watched in stunned silence. They had never witnessed combat so brutally efficient. No warnings, no attempts to disable, no surrender protocols offered. The attackers were erased systematically. A single human transmission finally reached the Celtari bridge. The language was translated automatically by their systems, though the tone required no translation. Distress signal received, "Stay where you are, hostile forces are being neutralized." There was no promise of safety, only certainty of action. The enemy fleet attempted to flee. They scattered in every direction, using forbidden drives that tore wounds into space itself. The human ships pursued without hesitation, splitting into hunting formations. None of the predators escaped. Hours later, silence returned to the system. Debris fields drifted where armadas had existed. The Celtari cruiser remained intact, untouched, wrapped in a shield it did not understand. Human vessels maintained position, vigilant, unmoving. Finally, another transmission came. Identify yourselves, state injuries and casualties, rescue operations will commence. Only then did the Celtari realize something terrifying. They had not been saved by heroes. They had been protected by apex survivors of a world that had tried to kill them and failed. The first human boarding team entered the Celtari cruiser without hesitation. They wore sealed armor marked by tool scratches and impact burns rather than decorative symbols. Their movements were calm, efficient, and utterly fearless in an environment filled with radiation leaks and failing gravity. To the Celtari, it felt like watching predators walk through fire. Medical scans began immediately. Human medics worked alongside autonomous drones, stabilizing injured Celtari despite fundamental biological differences. They adapted in real time, rewriting treatment protocols as they went, saving lives that had already been mourned. When communication finally became conversational, the Celtari asked the question that haunted them. "Why did you come?" The human commander paused before answering. "Because you asked." The Celtari struggled to understand. No treaties bound humanity to them. No trade agreements existed. No political advantage could be gained from saving a dying expedition in unclaimed space. The commander explained in simple terms. Humanity evolved on a world where survival meant responding to danger instantly. A planet of predators, disasters, and constant competition. Ignoring a distress call had once meant extinction. The Celtari historians recorded every word. They learned that humans classified worlds by lethality, and Earth ranked among the highest ever documented. A place where storms, diseases, and animals killed without remorse. Humans had not conquered their world by harmony. They endured it, adapted to it, and eventually mastered it. By the time they reached the stars, they were already experts at surviving hell. When the Celtari asked about the enemy fleet, the response was cold. They attacked a vessel that asked for help. That makes them a threat. And threats get removed. There was no pride in the statement. No cruelty. Only a survival logic refined over millions of years. As evacuation began, the Celtari sent an update to the Galactic Council. Their message carried a warning rather than gratitude. When you hear a human distress response, you are no longer in danger. But whoever threatened you is already dead. The Galactic Council convened in emergency session within hours of receiving the Celtari report. Species that had debated for centuries now listened in stunned silence. Recordings of the battle played across holographic displays, showing fleets vanishing in seconds. Human efficiency unsettled even the most hardened strategists. Many had dismissed humans as volatile newcomers. Deathworlders with unpredictable emotions and excessive militarization. Now those same traits were re-evaluated as terrifying strengths. Humanity had not escalated the conflict, they had ended it. Council analysts noted something more disturbing. Human ships had not used their most powerful weapons. The engagement logs suggested restraint, as if the humans had been holding back out of habit. Diplomatic channels flooded Earth with inquiries, concerns, and cautious praise. Human responses were brief and uniform. Distress signals will always be answered. Aggression against rescued parties will not be tolerated. Some council members proposed restrictions. Others suggested alliances. A few whispered about preemptive containment. Those voices quickly fell silent, because the recordings showed something unmistakable. Human ships did not posture or threaten. They simply acted. And that made them unpredictable in the worst possible way. The Celtari survivors became unwilling symbols. Their testimony spread across known space. Worlds revised emergency protocols. Pirate coalitions quietly disbanded. In the darker regions of the galaxy, rumors spread faster than data. Stories of Deathworlders who emerged from nowhere. Of fleets erased for touching the weak. Of predators who hunted predators. Humanity did not correct the stories. They did not deny them either. They simply returned to patrol routes that no one else dared to enter. Years later, the phrase Deathworlder carried a different meaning. It no longer implied reckless violence or unstable aggression. It meant reliability under pressure, and absolute response to suffering. New civilizations learned the rule quickly. If you send a false distress signal, do not hope humans hear it. If you attack someone who has called for help, pray humans never arrive. The Celtari rebuilt their fleet with human assistance. Their ships now carried reinforced hulls and emergency beacons tuned specifically to human receivers. Not as weapons, but as promises. A promise that someone would answer. Human children were taught the story as history, not as legend. They learned that strength meant responsibility, and survival meant protecting those who could not fight back. Out in the void, listening arrays remained active. Waiting, patient, unblinking. Somewhere, someday, another distress signal would be sent. And when it was, the galaxy knew what would follow. Not hope, not mercy, but certainty. Because when Deathworlders answered, the danger was already over.